You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
It's Hump Day, folks. Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair, Mr. Michael Liebowitz, who is also helming this magnificent channel we call The Rational Alternative. Michael, what's going on in The Rational Alternative, man?
Well, like I've been saying, I've got the episode out with Mark and Joanne Skousen talking about Freedom Fest, talking about the Liberty Movement. Tomorrow, I'll be releasing an episode I did with a professor, an interview about the history of the free will problem. I've also got an interview scheduled to make up for the one I lost with Nikos Soterokoupoulos. So that should be a great interview. I love talking to Nikos. He's tons of fun. This Saturday, normally on Saturdays, we do, the Rational Alternative weekend with Megan Ribbons. This weekend, my girlfriend has a birthday party, so I'm going to that. But then we'll be back on Sunday. I've got the members only stuff. And pretty soon I'm going to be interviewing Mark. I just got to find the time to interview Mark. I want to discuss his method of acting, the psychology of playing different characters, et cetera, et cetera. And I've just stuck him right out there on Front Street, right? So now everybody knows that I'm waiting on Mark. Oh, and super chats and super stickers are always appreciated.
Much appreciated, folks. They make Michael smile. Yeah, Michael, tomorrow I get picked up at 4 a.m.
Oh, boy.
And I have to travel out to Tennessee to do the Tri-State Comic-Con out there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then I travel back Sunday night, and I get home around midnight or so.
Where were you this last week?
Chicago. I was in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, Chicago kind of is Tennessee, though. It's like the same thing.
Oh, yeah, right. And then, and then all of October, I have a convention every week in a different part of the world. I have Niagara Falls, Canada, which we're going to talk a little bit about Canada today and the ongoing trade war between Canada and the United States. And then I have Brazil, I have Charlotte, and I have Germany. So I'm going to be all over the place in October. It's going to be a crazy month, but I like a little bit of crazy and I like traveling around. It's super fun. It helps me to forget problems like the one we're talk about right now, Michael.
But it also helps to screw me and strand me alone here.
Yes.
You didn't mention that. You're like, oh yeah, we got it. It's great. It's nice. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, I apologize for that, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Michael, as I said, these conventions help me to forget temporarily the overwhelming shadow that is being cast across the United States right now by this $40 trillion debt. I think about this debt, Michael. I think, when did we pass $1 trillion? It was sometime was it in the 90s or in the 80s?
I think I want to say the 90s, but you go ahead and talk and I'll find it.
So it took us from the beginning of our republic to, possibly 200 years into our republic to amass $1 trillion debt. But in a fraction of my own lifetime, Michael, we've surpassed 40 trillion, and they're saying it's going to grow geometrically now, right? This debt is going to grow geometrically unless we do something about it immediately. The problem is there's no political incentive to do it, in part because we've lived in a spoil system democracy for decades now, and people are used to getting shit handed to them by the government, which of course they just confiscate, borrow, or print in order to fund. And so separating ourselves from this problem is going to be extremely difficult. One article talked about how we can't even grow our way out of it. We can't simply grow our way out of it. I think Republicans are thinking the AI revolution is going to grow the economy to such a degree that we won't have to worry about the debt.
Oh, they don't think any such thing. They don't think that.
I think some of them.
Right when you said it,
listen, diluted.
Right when you said it's growing geometrically, I thought to myself, I think he means exponentially. And then here comes Greg.
Exponentially, but geometrically,
What?
as well.
What? What do you mean geometrically? I don't think they can grow.
Let me go to Grok and sort out where.
Well, anyway, so Greg Lewis comes in and says geometrically or exponentially. I think Greg is right. I think Mark is wrong. But either way, that's nothing new. But we've got the
usually Michael looks up what I say and he's like, "Oh, I was wrong. Oh, there is another. There is another way to look at this."
Sure. Okay. So the United States first reached the $1 trillion national debt October 22nd, 1981. It took 192 years from the founding of the federal government in 1789 to reach this first $1 trillion milestone.
And now we've reached 40 trillion, all in the space of my little lifetime, Michael. I know I've been around since the 18th century. Geometric growth of debt means the debt is increasing exponentially. They are interchangeable. They are interchangeable concepts. So Greg, kiss my grits.
Steered me wrong, Greg. Greg steered me wrong. Wow.
No, they're the same. They're the same. So look, first of all, before we talk about the debt, I want to talk about Tim Curry a little bit. Do you mind if I derail us just a little bit? Because Tim Curry passed away, Michael.
Go ahead, but I think we're gonna have an argument.
We got Dolly Parton, who passed away yesterday. That was a shock to the system. I don't know why. She was old, but she was 80 years old. So I don't know why it was a shock. I think because she just embodied a kind of American innocence and decency and a generosity and kindness and clarity. Right? There was something about her that was just very much down home. And, you sort of have this feeling. Yes, don't go there, Michael. You sort of have this feeling that she sort of represented Americana in a way, and that because of that, she was going to be eternal. I guess she is, because she'll live on in our hearts and minds for sure. But her passing was a shock to me. But Tim Curry is a big shock. Now, he had a stroke a few years ago, so he was not doing well. He was quite infirm. You know what, Michael? I might have seen him at a convention, but I was too chicken to go up to him and talk to him. I had a little fangirl moment with him. I was telling Michael before the show, when my stepbrother and I were 16, he used to steal his mom's car, and we would go into Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard, to the Tiffany Theater and watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show every Friday and Saturday night. We did that for about a year. And it was super, super, super fun. And he, of course, played the iconic Frankenfurter. He immortalized that role, and nobody can do it. Yeah, I fangirled. Nobody could do it better than him. So we're going to miss him. And, they started the movie out with 2 Tim Curry music videos. He was great. Loved his work. Loved him. And I'm sorry to see him go. So, Michael, what are we going to do about this debt, man? Let's talk about this.
I don't get to give my perspective on the dying celebrities.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
See, I'm the bad guy. I'm the heel, right? If we're in frustration, I'm the heel, because I got to tell you the truth. I generally don't care when celebrities die. I really don't. I mean, I don't know these people. They don't really do much for me. They wouldn't shed tears if I passed away, and I generally don't care. Now, I do relate in one sense, though, Mark, to this. When you talk about your teen years and going to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show, so for nostalgic reasons, when Hulk Hogan and Ozzy both died, in the couple days period, both of them were an integral part of my childhood. So it did bring up childhood stuff, but I wasn't too upset that they passed. Jim says one can care without grieving as a friend. Yes, but some people are really upset. When Princess Diana died, there were women bawling their eyes out. That's just something.
Michael, I mean, some people have, this for some people, for you, it represents a nostalgic place in your life that's important, but not enough for you to mourn like that. For some people, those celebrities represent a little bit more, and for them, it's a huge loss in their lives. Just to know that the person's gone, right, is a.
But isn't that a problem? I mean, that's not good.
I don't know that it's bad. I mean,
Well, I
if
mean,
if
look, life is about value pursuit.
if a John Galt were real and he died, I would cry.
I wouldn't spend my time bawling my eyes out.
I wouldn't
I
spend
would
my
be
time crying my eyes out, but I'd cry
okay.
because
Here's the
someone
problem.
great someone great has left us, and he's no longer
That's
here to.
yes, and you could say, "Wow," but like being bummed out. Look, life is about value pursuit, right? Life is a limited period. We got, say 80 years. We have 80 years on this earth. And in that time, we have to do certain things. We can't do other things. So whatever we do is necessarily at the expense of something else we're doing. So from what I'm going to care about, where I'm going to direct my time, and again, see, Jim is the one with the false alternatives. Jim Valiant says false alternative alert because he's the one. He's the false alternative guy. Because it's absolutely true that I cannot do two things at once. I cannot be in two places at a time. So to say, wow, that's sad, I mourn the loss of somebody, is one thing. The other extreme, bawling your eyes out over Princess Diana, when you go from the it doesn't really bother me continuum all the way toward bawling your eyes out, somewhere along the way, it gets to be too much. Somewhere along the way, you're valuing something out of proportion to its benefit to your own life. If I'm bawling my eyes out, and I mean, like, I'm talking about like when somebody I love dies, when my mother died, my father died, my girlfriend died, I bawled my eyes out. If I'm bawling my eyes out in the same way for somebody I've never met, to me, that's a problem. That is value. What's the word I'm looking for? Overvaluing something. And I don't know how
I don't
disagree
with that in a certain sense, but you don't know how they mourn for the people they actually value. It could be worse, Michael. It could be that what you see, is a fraction of what they would feel for somebody, who they're intimately involved with. They just have big feels, man. I think it's good.
No.
I know we're talking about two separate things, but I think it's good to mourn the passing of someone you consider to be of value, who brought value to your life. And of course, that's going to be relative for each person, the degree of meaning that a celebrity brings to someone's life. And yeah, I think some fans could over exaggerate that, or they could think there's an engagement or a relationship with that celebrity that they don't have, right? Because they've just lived with their work for so long. And so that's possible. But I still think mourning values, and Dolly Parton represented values to me. I mean, she's a pretty hip girl.
There's a difference between being like, damn, that's sad. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's sad. This person died. This person had such an impact on the culture. Yes, we mourn the loss of values. That's a sad thing. But when people take this personally, as if it's their personal loss, I'm sorry, it's too much.
In some respects, they're also mourning a loss within themselves, right? Like I'm mourning. I would mourn a loss of a part of my childhood with Tim Curry, a part of my innocence. All the things that I associate, as you did with Ozzy and stuff. But it confronts you, Michael, with your immortality or with your mortality, right? Like you see portions of your life going extinct. Right now, it should wake you up to the fact that you have a limited amount of time on this planet. You better get moving, right? But it's all right to take a moment to pause to think that, wow, the doors are closing on my life, on my generation, on what I knew. We're going to be ghosts soon. We're not going to be here anymore. And I think maybe to some degree they're mourning that as well.
Right, and then we can all get ourselves a copy of John Paul Sartre's collected works and drive ourselves crazy about the existential angst we're all having. I mean, I'm not denying any of that. All I'm saying is there comes a point where you're mourning the loss of people you don't know, where it's detrimental to you. This is disproportionate valuing, and it's not healthy. Now, where exactly that line is drawn, I don't know, because it's a continuum, and like most continuums, it's difficult to say. But I certainly know that when a woman is on the floor crying her eyes out because some woman was hit by a car, thousands of miles away that she never met, didn't know, that's problematic. That's not emotional health.
I'm not going to
okay.
disagree, and not just because
So-
I don't find Princess Diana to be of much worth, but that's just me. Go ahead.
Okay. Geometric sequences and exponential functions are closely related, but they are not identical.
They're synonymous.
What? You said they were the same thing.
I could read you my grok. I didn't go the whole way, but let's not argue about that anymore. What I
No
want to
bullshit.
talk about now,
No. You're
what I
not
wanna
escaping
talk
this
about-
one, Pellegrino.
What I want to talk about, Michael, is something.
Watch him squirm.
Is something that totally freaked me out. All right, listen to this. You sent this to me. On August 18th, the U.S. national debt surpassed $40 trillion. Listen to this. Roughly $117,000 per person in the United States of America. Michael, the United States government, along with the complicit population, has put every single one of us $117,000 into debt.
Yeah, I haven't made that much money in my entire life. Just so you know.
I mean, this is a debt level they're talking about with the students who get out of college and they're $100,000 in debt. They're shackled with this thing. They can't get off their back. It's an albatross. That's why there's all this political agita to remove the debt. We've got it. We've all got it.
I would be utterly remiss if I didn't comment on Jim Valiant's boomerism real quickly. Okay. So Greg Lewis says, when we're talking about Diana, Greg Lewis says, which Diana, and then puts J/K, meaning just kidding. Jim Valiant jumps in and answers, Princess. That's all right, Jim.
I'm glad
It's
it's James this time and not me. So
Okay.
Michael,
But look,
go ahead.
What do you mean? It's my turn to talk, and then you want to say so, Michael.
Go. Yeah, go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So the author of the article says that in order to grow our way out of the debt, they'd basically have to stop immediately with the deficits and all that shit. And then the economy would have to grow at 7% a year, which it has not done. And I don't know if it's ever been done, but it sure as hell hasn't happened.
For bursts. It's
no,
been
I'm
done.
talking about year over year.
Yeah, it can't be
Year over
never
year.
been.
That has not happened, right? So growing our way out of this is not going to happen. And you really don't have anybody that's legitimately talking about it. I did see some posts from Republican politicians, most of whom voted for the big, beautiful bill, talking about how crazy it is that we're $40 trillion in debt. Coming up very soon, and we're going to be at $60 trillion in debt. We're past, there's the debt owed the public and the debt it owns itself. So it could be over 100% of GDP, a little less than 100% of GDP, whatever. The interest that we're paying on the debt is more than we spend on the military. That is freaking insanity.
Michael,
I love that face you just made. You just made the best face.
Yeah,
That was a great face.
The MMT guys will argue that if you're the monopoly producer of money, you don't have to worry about debt. You tax it out of the system and it's fine. I asked one of these MMT guys, Michael, okay, what happens when the people who are using this medium of exchange lose confidence in the monopoly producer of money and go to another medium of exchange? Well, then of course it all breaks, and then it all their theory breaks. Of course it breaks. I don't think it's sustainable to tax, people at 100% to try to, remove all that, extra stuff. But, once we lose confidence in this money, Michael, which is happening, I mean, the currency is reaching a stage where people are going to start jettisoning the dollar. Now, I don't think a lot of financial analysts has seen this coming. I think they thought the world is much worse off than us. Other currencies are much worse than ours. So the dollar will still remain the base currency. But people are starting to pull out. They're starting to pull out of buying debt. They're starting to pull out of investment in American debt because they're less sure that we're going to be able to overcome this gigantic monster that the political class has pushed into our laps. So we are in a real crisis. I mean, something has to be done now. And we've still got 2 years of a guy who is responsible for a third of the debt, Michael, for a third of the current debt that we have.
Yeah. Hold on one second. Keep talking. I want to look something up real quickly. This is
Of course,
important.
the only way to deal with this is entitlements. Medicare and Social Security are the two main drivers of this debt. But if you watch this, the quote unquote capitalist, free market, constitutionalist conservatives, one of the things that they will say as a campaign point is, we're not touching your Social Security, and the voters will say, don't touch my Medicare. So
Well, that's
there's
the ultimate
there's
problem,
no
right?
political will on anybody's part to take care of this problem, Michael.
No, everybody wants their free stuff. They want shit. They want, and the entitlements are a huge problem. So Jim Valiant correctly points out that the economy grew at 7.1%. The authors actually said this
In 81,
the article I
right?
read. Well, in 84, it was
84.
coming out of an early 80s recession. So when you the post-war economic expansion did the same thing, but it's normally coming out of a recession. It doesn't happen when we are here. And 84, 16, that's 42 years ago also. Yeah, so what are some of the consequences of this, though, Mark? What are some of the consequences? People think that the only consequences are the big crash, but really this sucks money out of the economy. It takes money to pay interest rather than investing, rather than capital accumulation. So we don't end up with solid economic growth. So we have this huge debt hampering growth. And then we have people saying, no, we can grow our way out. But
And then what do they do to try to grow their way out? They try to stimulate demand, Michael, by easing credit, or flowing a little bit more money into the system so that it stimulates demand. And what does that do? Drives up inflation. We're in a clusterfuck right now. Like, they literally have to stop spending the money they're spending, or we're in trouble. I mean, we are going to go off a debt cliff. The Austrians have been warning about this forever and ever and ever. No, we all know it's going to happen. Nobody knows when it's going to happen. But one thing is sort of sure. It's like Hemingway said when somebody asked one of his characters how you went bankrupt. He said, first slowly and then all at once. Well, that's sort of the way it's going to happen. We build up to it, and everybody who knows a little something about the way money and economics works has been warning everybody forever that this debt crisis is approaching. Now we're in it, and when it goes, it's going to go fast.
right. So we actually, we are experiencing the consequences. They're likely to get worse. So, I mean, you and we're trying to put together some sort of a plan by reading this stuff, but there's no easy fix for this. Not even close. So I guess we're gonna wait and see, and it'll keep going up because this is not something that affects people immediately, and people tend to have very myopic views, so they don't see the long term what's coming. The debt that's being passed on to their children, their grandchildren, for instance. That's just one of the problems. The crowding out of investment, the higher interest rates that inevitably come because the government wants to borrow more money, or the monetary expansion to lower interest rates so that they don't have to pay those higher interest rates, which ultimately leads to inflation, malinvestment, discoordination, trade cycles.
Yeah, the reason they bring those interest rates down, folks, is so that they're paying a cheaper dollar. They're essentially cheating to lower those interest rates. So what it does for you is it robs you of your savings, it robs you of a capital accumulation. It kills you, all for the parasitic political class to keep this ruse going. And it is a ruse, Michael. And the only way out of it, you said that what you said was interesting. There's no immediate consequences. And there isn't to going on like this, because all the stuff is down the road and it's an abstraction. But Michael, the immediate consequence that they would feel is the quote unquote austerity, right? Because they wouldn't get that check in the mail, or they'd see that it's 10 or 15% lower than it was last time. and that would immediately bother them, and they would feel the immediate consequences of that, and the distant benefits of getting out of the debt hole and releasing their children from the obligation of paying for their party time.
Right.
They don't understand that because it's an abstraction.
Yeah.
So
it's like when I go out to eat. The great taste of that pizza is right there in front of me. The negative effects,
Yeah.
So Sebastian Scalora, subby, my friend, my landlord, he says, "Hey, everyone."
What's up?
Oh, man, I was hoping for a more enthusiastic hello than that.
What's up, subby?
What's up, my dude? Like something like that.
What's up, my dude?
My dude. What's happening?
You said do.
No, you gotta. You don't want to put the emphasis. It's all about what you accentuate here. It's like claiming geometric and exponential are the same.
Do you know what a
dude
is?
It's really not true.
Do you know what a dude is? Do you know what a dude is?
No.
It's a wart on an elephant's ass.
Come on.
That's what I heard.
Made that up.
I didn't.
It's
I
what
heard
you
that.
heard.
I heard that from
Jim
someone.
Valiant? Did Jim Valiant tell you that? He says,
no.
"Yep."
He said that way before. Stop waiting for the disaster and realize that the truth is you've been strapped to the Princess Bride machine for decades. That comes from Robert Naser.
Yes.
Thank you, Robert.
Can I tell you a problem that I have?
Go ahead.
So I wake up in the morning and I do my reading for this, and I send you all the articles very early in the morning. Then I have to, after I do that, I have to get on with my day, do my day job, clean the house, let the dogs out, work out, shower, all that. I tend to forget a lot of the stuff that was in the article, so I kind of have to, work ad hoc while we're here.
All right. That's all right.
What do you think about that?
It doesn't bother me at all. Should it bother me?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. We're on
fine.
a show. The show's about conversation, and I'm just making conversation.
I think you're idle conversation. So, Michael, in addition
idle,
to
what do you mean idle conversation?
check this out, though, Michael. I'm going to avoid this fight. Check this out. So we've got this $40 trillion debt happening. You'd think, what do you think, let's say, aside from cutting spending, which is what the government has to do, what would an intelligent administration start doing with respect to dealing with this debt?
You got to stop. You got to slow down on the spending. Part of the problem is,
let's forget
hold
the
on.
spending.
Hold on. You can't ask me a question and then when I start to answer it, yell, no, stop. Can you tell I'm a little ornery today?
Yeah, you're steamed.
I'm steamed like I'm Rickles. Anyways, a lot of this spending is automatic. When it comes to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, it's automatic. That's not even the stuff they argue about. The stuff they argue is discretionary.
Yep.
To me, that has to stop. We've got to. I would push, if I'm President Liebowitz, I'm pushing to get rid of non-discretionary spending because that is ridiculous. And we've got to wean off of the entitlement state. The thing is, it's not even about any compassion or ideology, anything like that. It's a simple matter of math that we cannot afford it. We can't afford the entitlement state. So beyond everything else, all the other great economic arguments, moral arguments, and every policy arguments, whatever that we have, the bottom line is it's not affordable. That's it.
It is. It is. And no amount of compassion is going to make up for that. But as I was saying, Michael, what would a decent administration start doing? Let's forget the spending for a second. Let's just presume that's going to.
Wait, hold on.
Mark,
what kind of question is this?
I'm leading to something. I'm trying to segue into a topic, so let me do it.
No, but this is bull. No, I'm not going to let this happen.
Because you're not going to let me smoothly segue into the very next topic.
No, because you said, what would a smart administration do? That was the question. And then you foreclosed
leaving
the
aside
answer.
One of the most smart things, but they have to do things in concert with each other. So they have to stop spending as much, but they also have to do something else, Michael. What do they have to do? They have to liberalize the economy. They have to cut they have to cut regulation, and they have to not impose tariffs on trade. They have to make life affordable to the everyday average citizen by letting trade freely come into our country. This is the exact opposite of what Trump is doing. This is like a recipe for, post crash of 29, Smoot-Hawley tariffs, the trade war that started that deepened the depression. I mean, we're heading for that because we've got a buffoon in office who claims he wants to bring manufacturing back while at the same time making capital goods unaffordable and making industrial inputs unaffordable and making life unaffordable for people. Michael, what's really disgusting about what's even more disgusting about the fact that we're tariffing Canada, 50% tariffs on a number of items, is that the stupid idiot Carney across the border has chosen to do the same thing in retaliation to us. But Michael, it's like two bullies screaming at each other and then slapping us.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
it's all of us who are getting annihilated by this, not these two boneheads.
They are two boneheads. I just want to say that this was not a good segue. Mark is a very talented guy. He's very good. He's great at commentary.
Guys, help me.
The problem was that what you should have asked is, what is one of the things you don't want to do when this is happening? And that would be raise taxes when you have this big
Raise
drag
taxes,
in the economy.
correct.
The problem is, you said, what would a smart administration do?
Eliminate tariffs.
But not just that,
Eliminate
but there's a
barriers.
whole lot of other
Eliminate
things we want to do
regulations.
too. But you could have also said, what is one thing that they could do? That would have been different. But
Should
you
I
said,
just-
what
should I
should
just-
they do?
Should I just let you deal with the segues in, since you're going to complain about my segues all the time?
No, I'm just giving you constructive criticism. You
Okay.
need constructive
You do the next
criticism.
segue. You do the next segue then, because I thought it was an okay segue, but maybe.
Oh my
the
God.
people in the gallery.
You wait to see the. I'm the best at segues.
Could you?
A lot of people are saying it. I'm really good at segues. They're the
That's not
best.
bad.
They're the best segues you've ever seen.
You've never
Nobody
seen a
does it
segue like
better.
this. This is the best segue we've ever had. Speaking of segues, guys, since he gives the best segues ever, so they say, you should super chat him and you should super sticker, because that'll make him happy, and it'll also keep him from criticizing my segues.
That's why I'm ornery, yes, because there's no dough coming in. When the dough comes in, the critiques go away. Okay. So aside from the obvious, we often talk when we're talking about national, foreign policy, unintended consequences, that when you go to war with a country, you don't know how that's going to pan out. This is the same thing. You don't know how it's going to pan out. So in the case of this, so first we put, you put the tariffs. We've got tariffs going all over the place, but on Canada. Then, like you said, Canada responds. So Canada tariffs us. But we're also seeing a situation where other countries are now just looking to circumvent us and do business with each other.
Which includes
Right.
Canada, by the way.
So now we have Brazil, and what's this? The Mercuric, what's that organization that they're in called? The Marcus, what's the block, Mark? Do you remember?
I have to
find
look
it.
it up, but it's a block of South American countries. It's
Yeah,
sort
I'll
of like
find
the EU of South America.
It is the Mercosur trading bloc.
Correct.
And it's a South American trading bloc. So Brazil was hesitant to have them doing business with China. But now, because they're tariffed, they're going to start doing business with China. There's simply effects you cannot control. And that's the bottom line. So we're going to have the economic dislocations, the rise of some prices due to the tariffs, but the inevitable trade wars that come from it, but also pushing other countries together to do business and just exclude us. So and not to mention the fact that within, other countries tariff our exporters going into their countries. But a big problem here is Trump has this belief. Can I read something about Trump, and then you just remember what I just said about Trump has this belief, okay?
Good luck with that. Okay.
Trump has this belief. So there was a post on X today I thought was just freaking great. And it says, let me make sure, it might be over here. And It's not. It's
Well,
disappeared.
while you're looking for
No,
that,
you have to find it. It's so important. It's so important.
Akira Felix says some people are celebrating the Canadian Prime Minister. You're right, because he's crossing peckers with Trump, and everybody thinks, oh, he's great. He's looking out for Canadian interests. But you know what, Akira? These boneheads now have to subsidize Canadian industry and put out a massive multi-billion-dollar fund to subsidize the industries that their own tariffs against the United States are going to kill. So it's like these people are there in their own vanity are fighting each other, and we're the victims of it. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, so this I think was a great post. It's from Richard. This is all his name is. And he says, when the illusion finally shatters, what remains isn't disappointment, it's humiliation. The man you poured your faith into was never a visionary, never a savior, never even remotely exceptional. He was a hollow fraud wrapped in ego, fueled by noise and sustained by endless self-promotion. Every boast, every grand promise, every display of swagger crumbles the instant reality enters the room. What looked like confidence was arrogance. What looked like strength was insecurity. What looked like leadership was little more than a carefully marketed illusion. Scratch beneath the surface and there's no hidden brilliance, no master strategist, no misunderstood genius. Just an impulsive, self-absorbed figure stumbling from one failure to the next, desperately trying to drown incompetence in a torrent of bluster and spectacle. In the end, the strongman image collapses into exactly what it always was: cheap theater. A gaudy performance, a caricature masquerading as leadership, a salesman peddling an image he could never live up to. And the hardest part isn't watching the act fall apart, it's realizing how long you applauded it, defended it, and mistook obvious bullshit for substance.
That's great.
I thought that was,
who wrote that?
This guy, Richard. I don't know who he is. Richard. But anyways, Trump has this belief, and a lot of his supporters go along with it, that he's the brilliant negotiator, that he can so arrange things and bully people and threaten people and put tariffs here and regulations here, that everything just is going to work out. But it's utter hubris. It's like this guy said, it's empty. So recently we have this changing course in Iran where the plan now is Uber sanctions, or they called it economic D-Day or some such thing.
Yeah.
And Trump is threatening other countries, you better not do business with Iran. Well, China basically did this to him.
Of course.
China came out and basically said, look, don't threaten us. We're going to act in our interest, and that's it. And my guess is other countries are going to do the same. Iran certainly isn't taking heed because they're over there negotiating with Oman to create trade routes. Meanwhile, Trump is saying we control Hormuz, which, okay, there is evidence that they've cleared the mines. But the idea that they're going to navigate traffic through Hormuz as smoothly as it was going prior to his idiotic war, not going to happen. And just so you know, brother, that's how you do a segue.
No, I noted it. I noted it. I gave a little smile and nod. That was that was a good segue. Yeah, man. Mr. Deagle says something very interesting here. Trump is at the same time threatening to destroy Iran by stopping trade and attempting to help America by preventing trade with tariffs. I love that. And the irony is lost on this administration, man, because it's true. That's precisely what they are doing. In order to promote Trump's ego and his sense of power amongst the other nations, he's penalizing the American people. He's preventing from happening the very things he claims to want to bring about in America. If he wants a manufacturing boom, if he wants to bring business here, if he wants America to be richer and experience another golden age, he's got to do the exact opposite of what he's doing. But Michael, you know, we've always talked about him as a primacy of consciousness guy. It's like whatever he feels is the truth. It's not. He doesn't have any connection with objective truth, so he doesn't understand that he's doing contradictory things simultaneously, and that any good that he does is canceled out exponentially so by the bad that he's doing. Right? Is it good that he's, you know, sort of defanged the EPA? Yes. Is it good that he's, you know, deregulated certain areas of industry? Yes. Are those directly canceled out by all the shitty things he's doing with the economy, by the unnecessary war, by the tariffs, by the protectionism. Absolutely. Absolutely. And at a time when we're $40 trillion in debt, it's the exact opposite of what he should be doing. He's got to take his hands off the wheel. He's got to make the legislature responsible for taking this mandatory spending out and really subjecting it to critical cuts. Plain and simple. There's no other way around it anymore. And Michael, we do look. How much was the debt when he first got into the second term? It was in the 30s. It was in the 30s. It's climbing.
Yeah, but I mean, it was in the 30s, but now it's just at 40. So I mean, it was in the 30s a couple of weeks ago.
But I mean, every administration, this debt is just exponentially climbing. It's got to stop. It is unsustainable. And the next 2 years are going to be vital, Michael. And we have no political will on either side of the aisle to take care of this. I will say one thing, at least the Democrats, at least the establishment Democrats, seem to understand there's a problem with affordability. I don't know if they have the wherewithal to be able to see that it's about limiting what they want to do to create affordability, like by expanding government programs, that it's the opposite, is taking their hands off the wheel that will actually make things better. But at least they're acknowledging that there's an affordability problem.
Okay, so it was $36.2 trillion when Trump took office in January 2025. That means he's added nearly $4 trillion to the debt in less than 2 years. This from the guy who, when it was $19 trillion in 2016, said he could eliminate the debt. It was going to be very easy.
Think about that, Michael. It was 19 trillion in 2016.
Yeah.
Unfreaking believable. Unfreaking believable. I mean, It's more than doubled. It's more than doubled in 10 years.
So now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, there's this new plan, and I'm suspicious about the course that the war in Iran is going to take. They're now going to be focusing on economic sanctions rather than military. My suspicion is this is something because of the midterms, that they want to not engage in, get people all wound up prior to the midterms. They'll put forth these sanctions, and then the plan is maybe to start up the kinetic war after the midterms. I think there's a problem for Trump, though, and that is that the Democrats, I think, are going to take the House. And if they take the House, they very possibly could stop funding the war. Now, that wouldn't be until they actually took office. I believe they take office in January. So he would have, a couple months maybe. But given that we've been in this thing now for, 6 months and haven't won it, I don't see how he's going to win it in the 2 months between the midterms and the transfer of power.
So Enos says, what happened to the decision that the tariffs are unconstitutional? Yeah, he's making it work under another provision that places countries under investigation for using slave labor, basically. So the pretense is that all of these countries, like fucking Australia, New Zealand, it's countries that it's unimaginable that they're actually directly using slave labor. They're putting them under investigation, so they can use that as the pretense for the president imposing tariffs on these countries. Of course, the supply lines are so complex; it's quite possible that any country could be accused of somewhere around the supply line, inadvertently using forced labor. So it's a really specious use of the law, man. It's pretty fucked up, but that's what he's using now. He's using that technicality to impose his will on the rest of us, making our lives harder. Like, as I said last time, Michael, these tariffs impose about $1,000 obligation on each of us, and they raise the price of they add $8,500 to the prices of homes. It's bad for us, but he's not going to feel the effects of it. We will.
No, and by the way, it's not as if the Democrats are offering a better plan. Hakeem Jeffries, he faces, first of all, the dilemma: do they impeach, not impeach? So I suppose they're going to argue about that. But
I really hope they don't, Michael.
No, I hope they don't either. But here's the preferences. So these are Jeffrey's priorities: lower the cost of living, make healthcare affordable, take the Trump administration to task. Now, what I don't understand, right? Okay, this is not a plan. Lower the cost of living and make healthcare affordable. That's not a plan.
Yeah, it's a
Those
wish.
are goals. It's
Yeah, they're
goals,
goals.
and they're not even clearly defined goals.
Well, because you know that making life affordable means price controls to them, and you know that making medical care available and affordable is price controls to them. It's taking over the market. It's not letting the market do what what it hasn't been allowed to do. I mean, the affordability crisis is caused by politicians interfering with the price mechanism, man. Interfering with supply chains. This is almost entirely caused by the political animals in Washington, man, and that they can't propose any solutions other than leaving us alone, other than taking the shackles
Those would
off.
be the solutions. Unfortunately, as we're going to see in a minute when we discuss JD Vance, both parties want big government, and by big government I mean intrusive government. I'm not talking about the amount of people that they employ. So unlimited may be the better term, but they want to have the government intrude in our lives. The Libertarian Party, by the way, is really in shambles. They're having a nightmare of a time over there. There is, though, another party that has a convention coming up soon, Mark, if you'd like to talk about it for a second.
Indeed.
Before you do, I just want to remind people, if you're joining from X, this is the Capitalist Corner. This is the show where we discuss current events from a pro-reason, pro-capitalist perspective. We do so every weekday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. The show is the Capitalist Corner. Go to YouTube, The Rational Alternative. That's the name of the channel. Follow us there. We're only 22 from 1,000. 22 only.
A mere 22, folks. Let's bring it home to 1,000. By the way, Michael, you inspire people in the audience to break my balls. I just want you to know that. Greg Lewis is breaking my balls.
Well, he ought to. But Christopher Smith, I want to know what is a gross pig lake? From Christopher Smith.
Was I supposed to say something? Oh, yes, I was supposed to talk about the American Capitalist Party convention. It's in Pittsburgh, September 19th and 20th. There's going to be some great speakers there. We're going to talk about policies. We're going to argue about policies. We're going to figure out how best to tackle this debt crisis, how best to tackle making medical care affordable. Hint, hint, hint. It's about privatization. It's about freeing up competition. That's what it's mainly going to be. Eliminating the Department of Education, of course, so that people can take responsibility for their own children and their education. How novel is that, Michael? And allowing innovation to actually enter into education so that it's accessible and affordable to everyone. Of course, that's what happens when you free up a market. So we're going to have discussions like that, and it'll be very stimulating. Lots of savvy people will be there. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. 19th and 20th of September in Pittsburgh, PA. Be there or be square, as they say. Yes, I think we're the only party, Michael, with any coherent sense of what to do with respect to this terrible problem. We haven't sacrificed our principles to create, to get numbers, right? To pretend like we have a bigger influence than we actually do. We're the party of principle because we understand, in part, the reason we're in the mess we're in is because both sides have left principle in the dust. For political pragmatism. Thank you, Greg Lewis, for that super sticker. You're giving $1.99. You're in collusion with Michael to bust my balls, but I can appreciate that.
That's good. That's a good thing. So the American Capitalist Party, obviously, we would never be praising the populist progressive Huey Long as JD Vance did recently, Mark.
Scary.
What do you think of that?
I think it's scary. I mean, the more air that JD Vance is getting, the more frightening he is, right? I mean, the scary monster was sort of an abstraction at first, right? We just knew him to be, well, he's more savvy than Trump. He's probably more dangerous because he's more intelligent than Trump. And he adheres to ideas that aren't, they're not what I would call Americanism by a long shot. So if he gets in office, he's a scary customer. Now we're learning exactly what this guy really likes. and it ain't pretty, folks. He's even more scary than I thought, Michael. This guy hates individualism. This guy hates capitalism. He hates them. And I'm sure that his buddies in the Republican Party think that he's co-opting the moral high ground from the left, but it's not. It doesn't amount to that. This is what he believes. This is what he wants in America. And it's a frightening, I want to say Handmaid's Tale, like his ideal America is sort of a Handmaid's Tale nightmare of like provincialism. And what do you think, Michael? I mean, this guy's a scary dude.
Well, I'm reminded of by Christopher Smith's comment of when Groucho Marx went out and shot an elephant wearing his pajamas, and you wonder how the elephant got in his pajamas. Christopher Smith, I knew what you meant, but the sentence reads, we're renaming Trump is a gross pig lake. You want to be is Trump is a gross pig lake. You need something there to separate. Otherwise, it's saying Trump is a gross pig lake. I didn't want to have to explain it. I was hoping you would have caught on. Normally you do. But yeah, so he calls Huey Long the great Southern populist. I got into it with some of these heritage Americans the other day, and one of them actually thought he was taking a shot at me by showing that I guess there's a register of people who served in the Civil War, and he put Liebowitz in there.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't there, as if I was going to say, oh no, nobody with my last name fought in the Civil War. Whatever will I do? And I told them, because these guys, what started it is, if people want to remain anonymous online, I'm cool with that. But these guys were just like going after Michael Tracy, just with saying really mean, nasty shit and doing it behind pseudonyms. And I just put out, people who use pseudonyms to launch insults online are cowards. And somebody steps in, well, I guess you don't like the founding fathers because they use pseudonyms. I guarantee you they didn't use pseudonyms for this. They used pseudonyms to fight for liberty against a crown that would have hung them, not so they could act like assholes online.
Correct.
But it turned out these guys were real heritage American types, and they're all into that garbage. And that's the type of thing that J.D. Vance espouses, So I'm going to have you once I find the answers to yesterday's question, you are again today doing the capitalist thought of the day and the question, because you're not going to be here.
That's right.
I think that's fair.
Folks, if you want to get rid of this national debt, if you want to get rid of these onerous tariffs that only hurt us,
we lost a subscriber.
Uh-oh.
That makes me sad.
All
right.
If you want to get rid, if you want to get, if you don't want to get involved in any more unnecessary,
you're not doing the capitalist thought yet, are you?
I am. I'm starting.
No, you got to remember the order, Mark. I got to answer the question from yesterday.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to do the capitalist thought of the day.
No, I do their answers from the day before, then the capitalist thought, then the question for tomorrow. You asked a question yesterday. I don't remember what it was, but we only have one answer from Christopher Smith. And that was yesterday. He says classic. And that was only 20 minutes ago. So.
What?
Yeah, so nobody liked your question. Okay, now you give the capitalist thought of the day.
Well, folks, it's clear to me, I'm sure it's clear to you, that the biggest enemy of your life is not rich people. It's not, people creating businesses and progressing us and innovating us and carrying us into the future. It's the political class. They have way too much power. They shackle progress. They hamper you with their vision of what utopia should be, and they make you pay the bill for it, while at the same time not getting the benefits that they claim. So it's time to have a divorce with the political class, folks. And what does that mean? It means that the political class is appropriately shackled by the Constitution of the United States. You need people in office who are going to take the Constitution seriously and live by the letter of the Constitution, not by any implied powers, but by the letter. In a capitalist oriented government would do that. It understands that the only way you get innovation, progress, and human thriving is by marginalizing force. In other words, force can only be used under very strict circumstances and under no other circumstances. And that's what a capitalist society does. It bans the use of force and the initiation of force in human relations. It subjects it to rule of law. This is the kind of world that we want to return to. We were never entirely there, but we think we can get entirely there, folks. We know more than they did 250 years ago. So we have the potential to make this dream come alive. We were almost there. Now we can actually achieve it. We have the spectacle of these anti-capitalist political classmen, parasites out there now. To contrast a better vision of the world, a more optimistic vision of the world, a vision of the world where you have the dignity of taking responsibility for your own life. That's capitalism in a nutshell. So I guess my question would be for you: do you think the Democrats should impeach President Trump if they gain the power over the House? My personal opinion, Michael, I'm going to give it. I don't think they should. It'll be a tremendous waste of time. I think it'll show the American people that the Democratic Party is more interested in prosecuting the rival tribe than they are in fixing the problems that they've created. I think people want to see the government getting down to work into dismantling the structure the hazardous structure that they've created that hampers all of us in our lives. That's what I want to see. I want to see them get to work to lessening their impact in the world. That's what I've got to say. Please answer that on YouTube. Please don't don't be one person answer. A few of you go there. Go to YouTube. Answer the question. Do you think you should be impeached? I say no, for reasons of our own survival.
So I have a comment. I have a comment here.
Yeah.
So Jim Valiant says Michael is a series of unexpected conversational speed bumps. Well, first of all, Mark should have known not to start the capitalist thought of the day. So I don't know how unexpected it should have been. Secondly, I think it's Newton's first law of motion that the object in motion without friction will stay in motion until something stops it. Well, if there is no conversational speed bump with Jim Valiant, he is the vocal equivalent of an object in movement with no friction and nothing to stop it. It will go on forever.
Wait. Is this the way you romance him into doing the show with you tomorrow?
I'm hoping he's going to do the show with me tomorrow and Friday. Hopefully he will.
All right, guys, you got 23 hours to check your premises. I have less, Michael. I got to be up at 3 a.m. I got to be in a car by 4 a.m. and on a plane at 7. What?
I'm going to give Jim the last word here. Jim says, he says about me, you are entropy embodied.
I like that.
Jim's here tomorrow. Awesome. We have Jim here. And Nicole Hingle says, I have the best smile she's ever seen. Huh?
All right. I won't take that as an insult, Nicole, that you don't think my smile's as good as Michael's.
You don't really smile much, though. You are like
I laugh all the time. I don't have a constant.
You've got like a grumpus. You've got a grumpus look to you.
What?
Yeah, you got it's a like one of these melancholy actor type things. It's like a grumpus look. Yeah, it's all okay, right. But it's there.
All right, folks. My grumpy puss will not be here tomorrow. But that doesn't mean that you are let off the hook. You got 23 hours to check your premises. You're going to come here active-minded and ready for business with James and Michael. See you tomorrow, folks. Peace.